What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. You have a ton of choices in terms of where to get your sports media. We genuinely appreciate you making us part of your afternoon. All sorts of fired up on this Super Tuesday edition of the show. What's up to the YouTubers at the Fan Upstate on YouTube? Great to have you guys with us. Here's how you can take part. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Coming up on the show today, somebody call the fire department because Dabo Sweeney needs to be put out. We'll explain. So many jumping off points on the NBA, including teammates turning on one another. We've got Jeremy Johnson from On3 Sports joining us on a low-key call that he had for us about 3 or 4 weeks ago about Sammy Brown, which ended up coming to fruition yesterday. Of course, we're going to have him back on. If this player from yesterday was playing today, he'd be just as good now as he was then. Who is that for you? We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got Can We Stop? And we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. But we open, my friends, as promised to many. It's incredible. Every time you have a big opinion, and I don't mind this, okay? Like I get it. Like it's the nature of the beast. Every time you have a big opinion on something and there's news on it, everybody hits you with, I can't wait to hear what you say about this. What are you going to do now? And like I was getting tweets this morning about this particular topic before I even knew what happened. What are you going to do now, Mark Ryan? What are you going to say now? So the news is that the PGA Tour and the LIV Golf Tour have merged. That is the news. They are now all flying under the same flag. I don't yet know the particulars of how the finances are going to work. Like, how are the PGA Tour guys that are making way less than the LIV Golf Tour guys going to be compensated now? But perhaps instigated by Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship last month, the PGA Tour said we can't have our best golfers winning majors and us not being affiliated with it. And we have no legal standing by which to prevent these guys from playing in majors, because majors are not PGA-sanctioned events. They're lesser tournaments are PGA-sanctioned events.
It's kind of like the college football playoff. They're not NCAA events.
Right. So Clemson has no official football national championships. The NCAA has records of this. We've discussed this on the show. Like, how do you feel about the fact, if you're a Clemson fan, that the NCAA does not even recognize a single national championship that you have? And the PGA Tour got tired of this. So, folks, here is actually what the PGA Tour did. The PGA Tour broke bad.
Love that theme song.
Yes.
That's the best theme song for any show ever.
It is GOAT status, man. It is GOAT status. You knew you were getting into a dark adventure that was going to leave you questioning your own morality. Like, why am I rooting for Walter White, right? Like, you're going to enter a dark area when you heard that music, and that's the same thing that the PGA Tour just did. The PGA Tour broke bad. They did a deal with the devil. This is proof that when Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship, that they then perceived the LIV Tour as a threat. What I don't understand, okay, is why all of you guys make something political. You're so darn predictable, each and every one of you. You know, it's like if your political leader does business with X company, then you're going to defend X company till the end, right? So Donald Trump did business with the Live Golf Tour because you're a Trumper. You say, well, Mark Ryan, what do you think now? Hell, what do you think now? What now that they're in bed with the PGA Golf Tour? What I think is that I didn't watch golf before, and I really am not going to watch golf now. That's not to say I'm not going to cover it because, look, guys, part of this is our job. You know, part of covering golf is our job. I hope it becomes more interesting. I hope they develop rivalries. I hope it becomes like Happy Gilmore. I think Brooks Koepka being a prickly character and just genuinely not a good guy, I think that's actually great for the sport, Diesel, because you know what? We watch what's the same. It's the Howard Stern principle, right? Like, yeah, you watch more because you hate him and you want to see him fail.
Every great story needs a villain. That's the thing. Right wingers, Republicans should be the most vocal against Live. You know, what are right wing principles? Pro America, pro U.S. troops, pro U.S. lives. You should be very much against Live Golf. But because one guy with a bad haircut and an orange painted face said, I like Live, they can have a tournament at my golf course. All of you sold out your country for Live Golf. And it is disgusting and despicable. And you love it. That's what I don't understand. You love it. You love selling out your country because, well, your political leader said they can have a tournament at my golf course.
And Diesel, people are calling you and I like pearl clutchers and, hey, would you guys turn down all this money and so on and so forth? And, get off our high horse. Aren't we sanctimonious and all this stuff?
I played golf with a guy last week who did that very thing. He goes, I have not yet met somebody that I can't beat in an argument about Live Golf. And he said, well, America does business. Don't care. American companies do business with Saudi Arabia. Don't care. It's possible some of the things that you buy and have in your home have ties to Saudi Arabia. Don't care. It is a moral issue, and those players lack morals.
100%. They all lack morals. Every single one of them lacks morals. And I still have yet, folks, to see a better comeback, okay, to any of our main points than this general lame statement from the Michael Stathakises of the world. Michael Stathakis, to me, tweeting today, if watching sports from countries that fund shady bleep in other countries, if peeing your pants is cool, then consider me Miles Davis. It's funny. It's cute. It's a little clever. That's who Michael Stathakis is, right?
That's a movie quote. He didn't
cute,
come up with that.
Clever. No, I know. He's got the gif here. But, if all you have is everybody else is doing it, I bring you back to the same elementary conversation that you had when you were 8 and your sister was 6, and she said, Billy's hitting me too. Everybody else is doing it is a piss poor excuse to sign on to Live Golf.
It's the what about brigade.
Yeah, what about them? What about them? What about me? It's just, guys, wrong is wrong, right is right. You know the difference, okay? Like, if you're going to defend Live Golf today, come with something better than, hey, Mark, do you know where your shoes came from? Hey, Mark, what about our government doing business with Saudi Arabia? Come with something better than they're doing it too. Okay, because that doesn't really matter to me. You know, I was watching The Herd with Colin Cowherd today. His opening segment was on this. And if you guys saw that as well, you probably saw that Colin, I would say, Diesel, that if 5 is dead in the middle, you don't know how you feel, you don't know how you stand. 5 is kind of like where I am on the expanded playoff. And 10 is pro Live Golf, and 1 is totally against Live Golf. Colin's about a 6. Like, he's slightly more leaning towards accepting it than he is not. And he says, like, all these people who are shaming the golfers for taking the money have never been offered millions to do something. Well, I've got an exception to that, and that is, because you're right, Colin, I have not been offered millions of dollars to endorse a product. But you know who is a millionaire? You know who has made millions of dollars to endorse products, to broadcast, was the National Sportscaster of the Year, the author of probably my favorite audio clip in the last year, Bob Costas himself.
This is blood money. There's no two ways around it. It's blood money. This is not like the AFL was once a challenge to the NFL or the ABA or the World Hockey Association to the established leagues, and maybe fans of a team would say, gee, we wish our guy didn't go over there. That isn't the case. This is Saudi blood money. We know all we need to know about the royal family and what they have done. It's not just Khashoggi. It's not just the ongoing oppression of women and gays. They're directly or indirectly tied, according to U.S. and British intelligence, to the 9/11 event.
So what is the difference here? And incidentally, you know, Colin Cowherd said, again, anybody who's shaming this has not been offered millions of dollars themselves. At last check, Bob Costas is a millionaire, right? He's been offered millions of dollars many times, still is making millions of dollars a year with NBC. And he is shaming Live Golf and those who take Live Golf's money for his work, for his own edification. Colin Cowherd did mention that he was offered 6 figures to do some reads for Live Golf and to attend some Live Golf events, and he turned it down. He said, I understand if you never want to watch golf again. I understand. But don't shame golfers who are staring in the face life-changing money. You've never been offered millions of dollars before.
These golfers already have life-changing money, because Liv wasn't getting the scrubs who are in their first year, second year on the tour, the guys that don't have money. They were going after the biggest names in golf, those who have already made their money. Phil Mickelson, if Phil was a contender at some tournaments, not all tournaments, but he was a contender at some tournaments. The dude is already buried in a mountain of cash. He already has it. Brooks Koepka already had a mountain of cash. So he didn't need it. So stop acting like these golfers were rescued out of the poorhouse by Live Golf. That is absolutely not the case. And if you try to frame it that way, you don't know what you're talking about.
We'll take your calls on this, 844-FAN phone. I'm wondering if there's anybody who opposes Diesel and I, who has the balls to call in.
Scott King on the YouTube comment thread says, does the PGA lack morals now? Yes. The Live Golf leadership made a large donation to whatever the new merger product is, per Reuters. Scott, can you give us a little more information on that? It's hard to look up whatever article you say you're talking about while we're doing live radio. So if you want to provide a little more information on that, we'd be happy to take a look. But does the PGA lack morals now? Yeah.
Am I surprised that the PGA Tour could be bought off? No. Guys, this is the same organization that did not allow an African-American member of the Masters Golf Club until 1990. Think about that for a minute. 1990. I've been making this point for 10 years. 10 years ago, it was like in Atlanta, I was saying they did not allow. Atlanta's got a huge African-American population. And I would say, you guys watching the Masters this weekend, you are bowing down to an entity that did not allow an African-American member until 23 years ago. Now it's 33 years ago. It is still awful. 1990, am I surprised that they could be bought off? Of course not. I'm not surprised that they could be bought off. What this tells you is, despite their posturing, they perceived Live Golf as a threat. They did. And so I challenge you guys, don't hide behind Twitter. Don't hide behind the text line. Don't hide behind YouTube. Oh, no, I'm not calling in because both Diesel and Mark are going to jump on me. Oh, you can't handle it? You scared? Buck, buck, buck. Call in. 844-FAN phone. We'll give you a chance to make your point. This is the show that gives you both sides, right? That's who we are. That's what we do. The PGA Tour broke bad today. Shame on them.
They sold out.
They sold out today. Real Big Fish has a song about this. Okay? They sold out. Shame on them. Brooks Koepka was already a millionaire. Shame on him. Colin Cowherd is not going to be involved in Live Golf Tour, doesn't fault those who are, says that anyone being critical has never had to turn down millions of dollars, but Bob Costas is a millionaire, right? And Colin himself walked away from six-figure endorsements. You know, like when you guys hear me do endorsements on the radio station, those endorsements pay me per year a few $1,000s, right? Would it be challenging to turn down six figures in endorsements? Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I have been asked since I have been here 4.5 years now if I would endorse this product or this product or this product. And sometimes I say no. I'm not lying to you. Sometimes I say no. It depends on what the product is. Always want to be helpful of the sales department, but every once in a while there's a product that I just don't believe in because of my own beliefs and values, right? And I don't mind saying I think someone else would be a better fit for that. But thank you for thinking of me. But I'll tell you when we come back, the biggest difference, right, between Live Golf money and any other kind of dirty money, I'll share that with you next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the fan upstate. Whether you agree or disagree, appreciate you making us part of your afternoon. Thomas Worthland is, he's posting pictures of things that I've tweeted about this, hoping you stick to your guns and take back your Easter wishes. What did I say? Okay, so what does he mean by this, Diesel? Take back my Easter wishes?
I wouldn't let him drag you down into that mire.
Okay, well,
that is what people do who know that they're wrong. People who are right stay on point. They argue the point. People who are wrong try to mire you down in little side stories and tertiary content. I wouldn't go that way.
So what I will say, guys, is this. What is the difference? Okay, what is the difference between this bad money and other bad money? And why am I okay with one and not the other? It is true. I am sitting here today in a pair of Nike slides that the dog we are caring for right now, Angela's mom's dog, was chewing through today when I was eating lunch. She got a little spanking and is now in the kennel for the afternoon because she's like taking chunks out of my slides, Diesel. It is true that I have another pair of Adidas slides. It is true that you can look up the history of Nike and Adidas, and there are some things that are there that are not to be proud of. That is 100% accurate. I draw the line, and this to me is far beyond the pale, when you consider, okay, that this family was involved in funding the 9/11 attacks. And so, I feel like I am in bizarro world, like I'm in a nightmare, and I can't get through to you guys, where how is this okay by you? Have you lost all of your scruples, all of your marbles? How is it okay by you? Would it be okay with you to watch LIV Golf? Honestly, this is a question from me to you. Would it be okay for you, okay, knowing your morals and values, to watch LIV Golf if you had lost a family in 9/11? Like if you knew that Saudi Arabia and this LIV Golf money, the royal family, the same family funding this, their funds made 9/11 possible, and your uncle died on United 93, or your father died in the World Trade Center, or your cousin, would it still be okay? Would you still be defending taking this money, using this money? Where do you draw the line? That's honestly what I want to know, Diesel. Where do these people draw the line on what is okay and what is not okay? I am despondent.
There are people who have sent sons and daughters overseas to fight, become injured, maimed, or killed as a direct result of that action. So your son or daughter might be missing a leg. Your son or daughter might be in 6 feet under right now because of what happened on 9/11. Yet somehow you've broken with reality in your brain and you say, well, that doesn't matter anymore. I just like this golf tour.
Our government has been doing business with Saudi Arabia for 80 years. That was one of Colin's points today, right? Doing business with them, taking their oil. The family funded 9/11. All conversation about if or how or is this okay ends to me right there. That doesn't mean that all these companies are free and clear. That doesn't mean that there isn't other dirty money somewhere. But when you authored the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil in the history of our nation, you are persona non grata. As a matter of fact, you're lucky we haven't blown you to smithereens yet. And you're going to take their money? You're going to take their money. I see that none of you had the guts to call in. You just want to sit behind your computers and send us text messages and send us YouTube messages and send us tweets. You don't have the guts to call in and express your points. The YouTube line is filled with comments. The text line is filled with comments. The Twitter line has more comments at this time of the show than almost ever. Yet none of you has the balls to call in because you don't have a better point than they're doing it too. What about them? What about them? What about this dirty money? You don't have a better point than that. You blindly follow your political leader off of a freaking cliff if he supports something. Blindly off a cliff. Diesel, how the hell did this become political? Like how the hell did, why do we know, right, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, that somebody who supports Live Golf is a Trumper? Why do we know that? Why do we know that conclusively, that somebody is a Trumper who supports Live Golf? Why do we know that? Explain that to me. Why is this a political thing? Why, it's an attack on Americans. So it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. Please do better than they did it too. They did it too. What about them? What about this dirty money? Because if you can't, you're reverting back to being 8 years old and arguing with mom about who got the last piece of candy. You or your 6-year-old sister. We're supposed to have grown up since then. Have you? Mark, in the words of Wu-Tang Clan, everything around me, live, get the money, dollar bills, y'all, bro, everyone has a price. That's the one thing I can't dispute. That's the one thing I can't dispute. Texter said, I cannot wait to hear your take on the Live Golf, Mark. You heard it. Mark, let's hear you rip the PGA today. Already done, Texter. You had a lot to say sanctimoniously about the PGA a short time ago. PGA took that terrorist money, ripped them. PGA decided they were too big of a threat, so they broke bad today. That's why we played the theme. That's what they did. Do you guys expect me to feel differently now? Do you guys expect me to feel differently now? I mean, really? If you think I'm going to, scurry back into my mouse hole, you just don't know me very well, man. You just don't know. You're spinning, Mark. You said anyone who took Live money was the scum of the earth. Yeah, I'm still saying that, Texter. I mean, what spinning is there? I'm still saying that. Seriously. Let's get to Scott in Simpsonville, who is up next on the show. Scott, thanks for the call. Thanks for having the balls. You're offside, Scott. Go ahead.
You're good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
So a lot of the PGA golfers apparently didn't know this was going down.
Yep.
According to what I've read. How are we supposed to treat those guys now that they're associated with Saudi blood money?
They have no choice. They have no choice. If they want to pursue their profession, they were very much echoing the sentiments of Bob Costas, and now they have no choice. If they want to pursue their profession, their employer did the deal with the devil. We've all worked for companies, Scott, that did a deal with the devil, and it may not be something you felt good about, but if you wanted to continue working, you had to take part in that. Okay? It would be great, and I would commend any millionaire golfer who said, I am no longer going to pursue my craft because I can't stand for this. I would honor that athlete for the rest of my life. But unless they want to give up their profession, they have no choice at this time.
That was going to be my next question. I appreciate the consistency.
You got it, bud. You got it. So where do you come out on this, Scott? I mean, it's blood money. You understand that, right? Can you admit that?
Yeah, I have no problem admitting it's Saudi blood money. I have a couple of friends that have played some smaller tour golf and said that a bunch of changes needed to be made to the PGA, and this was probably what was going to get it done. So I'm happy that some of your smaller golfers are going to be doing better. But overall, yeah, Saudi blood money is not good.
It's not good. Scott, thanks so much for the phone call. I do appreciate it, bud. And thanks for having the balls to reach out. We've got literally hundreds of people that are like keyboard warriors right now, Diesel, and they've got all these tough things to say. What about this? What about Nintendo? Stop using Nintendo. Stop using Nike. They have nothing to say about this. God forbid your mom lost her life in the 9/11 attacks. Where do you draw the line? Morally, where is that line for you? Because you bet your ass you'd feel differently if you lost a family member in 9/11. Is there anyone out there who lost a family member in 9/11 and is cool with Live Golf? If you are, I don't think you understand the 411 on what's going on here. Okay? So allow me to make it clear to you one more time. The same money that funded 9/11, the worst terrorist attack in American history, created LIV Golf, that has now merged with the PGA Tour because golfers who defected were winning majors. That is what's going on here. The PGA Tour broke bad, did a deal with the devil because LIV Golf with Brooks Koepka had become a threat. And the golfers of the PGA Tour did not know this was coming. I imagine many are in shock. The PGA Tour had many of them towing the company line. You know, like, we stand for morals and values, and you made us look bad. You made us look real bad. And now what do we do? And now what do you say? And, you know, there's golfers having a beer right now with each other, talking about what is their next plan. Can we band together and form our own league? You know how all these powers in college football are talking about breaking off? Like, I don't stand with the PGA. I don't stand with LIV Golf. We're going to create our own league. It's going to be appropriately funded, morally and ethically funded, and we're going to rock it out like that. We're going to get our own TV deal. Top 20 golfers in the world. That's what I'd watch. Guys, I didn't watch much golf before. I imagine I'm going to watch less golf now. I have to cover it, right? I have to. I was never going to talk about LIV Golf as long as it was in existence. But unfortunately, I do not have a choice not to cover the sports. Okay, I don't. What I can tell you is the sport is hurting. And I say that in a week when we are going to be out covering the BMW Pro-Am. We're going to be there on Thursday. The sport is struggling. You don't believe me? You know how many courses have closed the last 10 years? 1,310 golf courses have closed the last 10 years. Over 130 golf courses close every year. That's 2.5 golf courses closing per state per year. Millennials are not picking up golf clubs. They don't like the elitist snooty air. They don't like the time it takes. Right? They don't like a lot about it. They're not picking up clubs, and courses are closing. The sport is struggling, despite what others may tell you. And this, by the PGA Tour today, was a freaking Hail Mary to save itself from itself. In the end, they decided that survival was better than morality.
The PGA right now is in a similar place to the NCAA. The NCAA don't want that smoke from all the lawsuits that are going to happen that would result if they did the right thing, grabbed the steering wheel firmly and held on until they got the car back on the road. And the PGA Tour just did the exact same thing. They said, we don't want that smoke. We don't want the lawsuits. They have unlimited deep pockets. We don't. We can't win this fight in a courtroom, and it's not worth spending the money to try. And it's pathetic.
No backbone. No backbone. But, I mean, like, you can't say you're surprised, right, by the same company, the PGA, that did not allow an African-American member, that has a majors golf course, that did not allow an African-American member until 1990. All right? You know, Diesel, off the top of my head, I don't know the year that slavery was abolished in America, but it was far before 1990, right? And they said, nope, not approving you. To any African-American who applied for membership, Augusta National, 2.5 hours south, until 1990. The whole sport is shameful. The entire sport. Never more so than today.
Juneteenth is what you're thinking of, Mark, and it's June 19th, 1865.
So it took the Masters golf course a century and another quarter of a century, Diesel.
125
years. A century and another quarter of a century to allow an African-American member after slavery was abolished.
Juneteenth commemorates the emancipation of the last enslaved peoples in this country.
Yeah. So that's where we are. Am I surprised? Sadly, no. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what, because things could not keep going on the way that they were. You know, you see it all the time in business as well, don't you? You see like a young startup. Do you know that Netflix was offered itself to Blockbuster? And Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix for a few $1 million. Scoffed at Netflix, scoffed at buying them off. It would have made the few owners of Netflix and the president and the CEO, it would have made them perennial millionaires, right? And would have set them for life. Blockbuster laughed it off. 15 years later, Netflix is the biggest thing going. None of us have been to Blockbuster in over a decade. These little early mergers happen in business and life and sports all the time. What matters is just what the price is. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying on the text line. I wasn't harassing you, Mark Ryan. I'm genuinely interested since the PGA sold Rory and his PGA boys under the bus. It'll be interesting to see what Rory has to say about this. He is a businessman, best president of my lifetime, and I have tried bigly under him. Keep in mind, Saudis own the controlling or minority interest in nearly everything. Good thing for me, I don't watch golf because I would especially not watch it now since they've merged. It's like making a deal with the devil himself. Amen, Spur Daddy. Amen. Mark, it isn't they're doing it too. It's that no one cares but made a stand on golf. It's hypocritical. Texter says boycott Nintendo too. Already addressed that. I would like to say there's a difference between the PGA and PGA Tour. Other than that, I don't care. They don't affect me in my daily life. Thanks, Thomas. Well, that's about the most selfish American take I could hear. Doesn't affect me. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. None of my family died in 9/11, right?
Somebody blew up something in Charlotte. Doesn't affect me because it's in North Carolina, not here.
I mean, that's seriously the biggest problem in America. You know, like, why should your health care premiums go up if everyone is covered with health coverage? Because part of your increase in wage is going to be to cover the 10-year-old kid on your street that has cancer that couldn't be covered previously. Why is that your responsibility, even though it's not your kid? Because that is what being an American should be. All right. Let's do this. Let's get to who's been hanging on longer. Let's get to James in Greenville, who is up next. James, I appreciate the balls you have to call in. The floor is yours, James. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. First of all, I was out at the BMW Pro-Am today and out on the range, and every single player, caddy, rep there for all the manufacturers were all just a buzz about this. So it is all the topic. The other thing I wanted to say is it's all blood money. Whether we're talking about the Saudi Arabians, or whether we're talking about what happens with child slave labor in East Asia, where a lot of our sport products are made, it's all blood money. And I've been to China numerous times. I've been to other Southeast Asia countries numerous times. I've seen it firsthand. I was actually arrested in China. And so it's all blood money, and it's all wrong, period.
Well, and James, thanks so much for the thing that I valued most, James, is the thing you said last, because I was worried you were going to say it's all blood money, so we might as well all jump in. But you said it's all blood money and it's all bad, and that's what I can respect. I don't dispute for a second, right, that I'm wearing Nike and I'm not aware of the sweatshops that exist. Yeah, I do. But to me, it's like, how could any of us get behind supporting something that is owned by the family of the saddest day in American history? That owned by the family that made the saddest day in American history possible. Any of you guys saying this is okay did not lose anybody in 9/11, did not you lose anybody in the Pentagon, did not lose anyone on United 93. And that's a hell of a movie, by the way, if you've never seen it. United 93.
You know, it's an easy thing for a lot of people and there are a ton of them on the internet right now doing it, saying it, putting it on our text line right now. It's really easy to Google what products have ties to Saudi Arabia. And then you get to say, well, what about the iron that's in your pipes? You know, what about the PVC plastic that's in your pipes? What about the whatever it is, this ingredient that goes into this thing you buy? Look, there are some times and some products that it's unavoidable for you to choose ethically where your product comes from. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about, oh, well, I have to buy a pack of ink pens and the little plastic wick that's in the ink pen full of ink comes from China. That's not what we're talking about. I don't have a choice. All of these things come from China. What do you want me to do? Prick my finger and literally write it in blood? We're talking about people who had an option, who were already filthy rich, who chose to take more money. That is a choice. None of them were forced to take Saudi money. None of them were forced to sign with Live Golf. They all chose because they wanted more money. Their greed outweighed their morals.
And you have a choice whether you're going to still stick with this sport or you're not. And if you say, I'm done with the sport of golf, unless a lot of these golfers band together and start their own league, I tip my cap to you. I'm doing the same exact thing, except for covering the sport when I have to. Let's get to Creed and Cowpens, who is up next. Creed, I appreciate the balls you have to call in. You're offsides.
I think you sort of said some of my points. My main point was, and this is not specifically for that, but it's a little bit of, I just want to watch sports. I just want to watch sports. Why do I have to go into where's the money coming from, or where's the money for this, or this guy make $80 million, so we don't like him? This is probably a little bit of a different animal here, because the money where it comes from might be, well, it ain't. It is way worse. But just in general, I'm sick of people saying I should watch this or shouldn't watch that. I just want to watch the sport. I don't necessarily want to put my money in it. I just want to watch it.
Yeah, okay, but Creed, this family funded the single worst event in American history. And I say to you, Creed, I know you just want to watch sports, but do you have a moral compass that says to you, I've got to draw the line somewhere? And if this is what golf is going to be, can I survive as a sports fan without watching golf? If you can, Creed, I tip my cap to you, because this is where I draw the line, brother, is when this family has killed my American brothers and sisters.
Yeah, it's a good point. Don't get me wrong. It's a good point. There's some people, though, that would draw the line at watching millionaires fight billionaires over contract. You know, I mean, everybody would draw their line somewhere else. I'll admit it's a pretty big line to draw.
But Creed, there's a difference between greed and murder, mass murder, terrorist actions. Okay, there's a difference between that. I admit, NBA players making $60 million a year is a turnoff, right? A turnoff is far different than this, right? We all have things. Yeah. If you go out with a lady this weekend, Creed, we all have things that are like, these are my turnoffs. And then we all have things, a different category, that are deal breakers, right? Turnoff is she interrupts you. Deal breaker is she's shooting up heroin later this evening. See what I mean?
Yeah. I would admit this one here. I don't like I guess what I'm saying is I don't like people telling me what I should watch and why. But I admit this is a little bit of a different animal, because this is extreme. You know, I would admit this is an extreme one. I'll give you that on the point of extreme. This one's extreme.
Well, thank you, Creed. I appreciate that. And I invite all of you guys to join me in watching and covering golf as little as possible. Okay? I can't tell you that I'm never going to talk about it. There are times that are going to unfold, unless some of these golfers break away and start their own league, where I'm going to have to do it. Okay? I'm not going to mention Live Golf. I'm going to mention the sport itself. I'm going to talk about birdies and bogeys and things like that. And that'll be the end of it. We'll keep the conversation rolling right here. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate.
If you're living under a rock, you might not know that we are on video now on YouTube, the largest video platform in the world. YouTube.com, search the Fan Upstate. It's very, very easy to find. This thing is blowing up. It is moving so fast. And every single day, we see more and more people watching concurrently at any given time. And we love to see that. We would love to have you jump over on our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification. That way, when we go live at 3 o'clock every day, you get the heads up. You can jump right into the fray, as Spur Daddy does, as Mad Craft does, as John Kruger does. All you guys who jump in there every single day, we appreciate all of you. And man, this live and PGA merger has lit you guys up on the YouTube channel. So let's get through some of these comments here. Scott King, who did call in, says, does the PGA lack morals now? We already answered that. The question is yes. Let's see here. Spur Daddy tries to turn the conversation towards this young linebacker that just committed to Clemson, and we will get to that, Spur Daddy, I promise you. But I want to stay on topic here on this live golf thing. Let's see here. They're talking about his hair. That's great. Mark, these guys is chicken, says Spur Daddy, referring to the people who refuse to call in on the topic. We got the callers, and this thing just keeps growing. Good calls, too. Let's see here. Spur Daddy, he calls them keyboard bangers. Let's see here. It's Spur Daddy says it's a sad state of affairs and the downfall of your country when people always choose both sides of the party lines instead of what's morally right. I'm standing with God and no political agenda. Mad Craft questions, has Rory responded at all yet? Rory was one of the biggest proponents of staying in the PGA, and we have to look that up to see if Rory has responded. Somebody did ask, would Rory and some of these other players be able to walk away? They could. Sure, they could. They've got the money. Rory doesn't have to swing another golf club for the rest of his life in a tournament for money, and he would have a great rest of his life, and for generations his kids would be taken care of. Not all PGA golfers have the ability to do that. There are young up-and-coming guys who just don't have that kind of cash. They got to get out there and grind it out week in and week out on the tour to try to make a living. Scott King says, wait, why should I not play golf? I don't see how my participation on a local level has anything to do with the PGA or anything related to live. Scott, we never said that. Nobody ever said you shouldn't play golf. No one said that. We're talking about watching and supporting through your ratings, watching and supporting the PGA Tour now and live golf.
It was a day where the building has imploded for the PGA Tour and golf as a sport in general, but it was a red letter day for your Clemson Tigers. And we'll get to that with Jeremy Johnson, who joins us from On3 Sports next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. Well, you know, recruiting is such a big deal in this area. I remember specifically we were trying to rank the top 10 topics of interest in the upstate. And it's like college football 1, Clemson, South Carolina. Then which one is 3? Is it the Braves or is it the Carolina Panthers? High school football is probably number 5. And then somebody said, well, you forgot recruiting. It's like, yeah, like it's its own sport. It's its own entity. Clemson football is the most popular topic here. South Carolina football is the second most popular topic here. And then I think recruiting is very likely number 3. And on that note, you come to really respect certain guys that not only know their stuff, but they've built the relationships to get you tidbits of information. And the last time our next guest, Jeremy Johnson, joined us on Offsides, the feeling was that it was inevitable that the best linebacker in America, top 5 player in America, Sammy Brown, was going to sign with Georgia. And when we had Jeremy on 3 weeks ago or so, he did his best version without using the words of Lee Corso's "not so fast, my friend." He says, I actually believe that Clemson is in a great spot with Sammy Brown, that they're neck and neck, and I certainly wouldn't put it in Georgia's camp at this time. I said, well, wait a minute. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something to here. And yesterday, if you're a Clemson fan, you got the commitment that you were seeking. He loved the family environment at Clemson. Sammy Brown is going to be a Clemson Tiger. So how did this all come about? National recruiting writer for On3 Sports, Jeremy Johnson at Jeremy_Johnson, joins us right now on the show. Jeremy, you made a lot of people happy with that. Back that up a little bit on the Georgia stuff last month. Made a lot of people happy around here. Can I share, Jeremy, what did you know at that time that made you realize that this was not a notch in Georgia's belt just yet?
Yeah, I think, just talking to Sammy a couple months ago, a couple weeks back, and just throughout his whole recruitment, I know how much, Clemson meant to him. I knew how much Clemson, he's been a priority for Clemson. And, obviously the opportunity to get on the football field and help them right away, is something that you can't, overlook, for a guy like Sammy. Obviously at Georgia, there's 4 or 5 guys deep over there. And I think, he could have an impact at Georgia immediately because he's that talented. But, why not go to Clemson and be, one of the guys right away, and I know he's been a big, supporter of what their culture stands for. And, his family, is, they have a lot of the same values that Dabo Swinney and that staff over there, really, really, champion. So I feel like it was just really almost too good of a match for him to pass on at the end of the day.
National recruiting writer for On3 Sports, Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy, what vision is Dabo Swinney selling that Sammy Brown and other guys like him, because there are some other big names who are very much in the mix at the moment, are these guys buying? Is it early playing time? Is it NFL placement potential? Is it winning titles? What's really landing, if you could say that one is landing better than others, or is it kind of a mix between each guy?
I think it does kind of change per player, but also the thing that continues to come up every conversation I have with a recruit about Clemson is the genuine culture over there. Feel like Dabo Swinney, just once he gets guys on campus and they kind of see who he is, and he starts to peel back some of those layers of being the coach that you see that has won a lot of football games. And you start to peel back the man, and you start to show the man to these recruits, and you start to show the man to these families. I just feel like it's really hard to beat. Once Clemson kind of gets, in a place to where they can get these guys on campus and they can see them in person, and it's like, man, it's really hard to beat a genuine guy, especially on the recruiting trail. Obviously, they're going to try to replace a lot of these guys next year because they're going to go after 4 and 5 stars that are playing the same position next year. But when Clemson tells you, hey, you can come in and have a role for this university, you know, it may not be day one, it may not be day two, but you have a role here and you're very valuable to us as a person. It's hard not to listen because, you know, they're shooting you straight. And I think that's kind of been the overwhelming thing that I've taken away from, you know, covering the beat for a couple of years now and hearing a lot of guys talk about the program and Dabo Swinney as a coach.
Jeremy Johnson, national recruiting writer for On3 Sports, joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, the fan upstate. Jeremy, can you give us a scouting report on Sammy Brown, the player? We've seen the Brian Bosworth's comparisons. Is that because of the hair, the attitude? What are the strengths and weaknesses that you see?
I definitely think the comparison is with the hair. You know, obviously it's going to be there, but I really don't think he plays a lot like Brian Bosworth. I mean, I don't really have a player in mind at the moment, but just, you know, he's definitely a throwback, one of those bigger, physical, freaky, athletic linebackers that we saw in the 80s. That's why I guess the Brian Bosworth comparison is you know, natural, but, you know, he's the prototypical Mike linebacker. He's got a lot of speed, comes downhill really hard. He's a very smart player because his dad's a coach. He's been around football his entire life. So, you know, he knows what he sees when he looks across the, you know, line of scrimmage. He's going to be able to diagnose things. He's going to be able to correctly, you know, get your defense in the right positions. I think that's probably where his strength lies. Obviously, the physical tools are just off the charts with him. He runs 4.4-ish. Not 100% sure on that, but I know he's won multiple state championships as a wrestler. He's been in the running for state championships on the track. He's the typical All-American, all type linebacker that can do it all. So, you know, we'll see how he does as far as, like, you know, some of the other things, maybe helping out as a pass rusher, maybe dropping into coverage a little bit. I don't think he's done a ton of that in high school yet, but, you know, he could be called upon to do some of that, just being with his speed. You know, you can't, you know, pigeonhole him to one role because that kind of speed is just, you know, not natural for a linebacker sometimes.
Jeremy Johnson joining us here on the show, national recruiting writer On3 Sports. Always appreciate having him on. I think, Jeremy, that Shane Beamer has done an outstanding job at capitalizing on the momentum from the win in the Palmetto Bowl. I remember having conversations, you know, when he was hired, will he ever beat Clemson's? Already done that. Will he ever beat Clemson in a recruiting class? Well, he's on his way to doing that. Depending on what site you use, On3 Sports has the Gamecocks 6th, Clemson 8th. Can you speak to that race, Jeremy, the who's going to have the better class when all is said and done in the Palmetto State? Do you have an early leader? Is there a favorite to be the better of the two?
You know, when we talked about this last time, I leaned South Carolina, but, you know, things changed a little bit with Sammy Brown and obviously DJ Moore committing today, or TJ Moore committing today. So I think Clemson has a shot to close that gap. I mean, I know they're not done, and I know things for Clemson will happen quickly over the next couple of weeks. So, you know, we could be having a completely different conversation here in 2 weeks because I feel like Clemson's about to get on a roll. They're already on one. That's the thing about official visits at Clemson is they bring all these guys in at once, and, you know, they roll through the summer, and then you look up in the fall and they've got 20 guys in the class, and you don't even need to talk about them anymore because they've rattled off 15 commitments after one weekend. So, you know, I think that's the danger that, you know, we're in now with South Carolina having a little slight lead over them. I think that's the danger that Clemson's about to rattle off some big names over the next couple of weeks.
Jeremy, is there a recruit or two whose decision this cycle has been a big surprise to you? And if not this cycle, you can think back a year or two ago. Maybe a newcomer came in and swept in and grabbed a guy at the last minute, or somebody was leaning really heavily for the longest time and at the last minute changed their mind. Who surprised you with their commitment decision recently?
Ooh. I'm going to go with the number one player in the country, Dylan Raiola. He was locked in with Ohio State for almost a year, maybe a little longer. And then he reopened things, and it really kind of just came out of the blue. And then he ends up at Georgia. That whole little process really shook up. I think the recruiting cycle, 2024 cycle in general, because you're starting to look up, and now Georgia's in the mix for receivers and tight ends that they may not have gotten before Raiola committed to Georgia. And I think that's kind of changed not only the perception of Georgia's class, but also they had a really good class before that, don't get me wrong, but now it's like the offense has become, the breadwinner over in Athens with this class. You kind of look up and you're like, man, they like Jeremiah Smith on campus at Georgia. You got Mike Matthews, 5-star, that's going to be there this weekend for an OV. Cam Coleman, another 5-star. And then you got this 5-star quarterback that's coming on the campus next year. So that's going to get people excited just in itself, even though they do have another quarterback that's pretty good as well. Ryan Puglisi's a 4-star that, has a lot of upside. So, I think that commitment not only surprised me, but it also, I think, changed the landscape of Georgia's recruiting class for 2024 for sure.
You are so closely involved with Georgia's program and our programs here that we cover, Jeremy. And I was looking in the Athlon College Football Preview magazine. It says Georgia has the best offensive line in America, and then is the best unit on every level of defense as well. Best defensive line, best linebacking core, best defensive backfield. Is this, are we about to enter the season of Georgia's most dominant run? I mean, I understand there's a quarterback change there. Do you see Georgia becoming the first three-peat champion since 1936?
I think they have the best shot of any of the teams that have, been in this position for sure. I mean, you look at their schedule, they have a few areas that, they have to kind of jump over those hurdles. And there's a few landmines here and there. The big game that immediately steps out is the game with South Carolina. That's at home. Ole Miss, they'll play Ole Miss. That's at home. Tennessee, they get Tennessee on the road, I believe. I'm not looking at the schedule right now, but
yes,
those are going to be the big three for Georgia until they get to Atlanta potentially and maybe face with an Alabama or an LSU or Ole Miss or whoever that may be out of the West. The West is just they're going to just jump on each other, and you're going to look up and those teams will have 2 losses by the time they get to Atlanta. So, Georgia will be they're in a good position. They, like you said, you look down their roster, there aren't many holes because Kirby Smart and that crew, they've recruited so well, and they've stocked that roster with guys that not only want to be there, but have been okay with kind of waiting their turn. And a lot of those guys are not inexperienced because they rotate and play so much. So, I think they're just going to continue to keep going with what they've had the last couple of years.
Jeremy Johnson joining us here on the show. Jeremy, can you give us a little primer on the commitment Clemson got today? Terrence T.J. Moore Jr., a 4-star wide receiver. And I know a lot of Clemson fans are really excited about this division. That position group has disappointed the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, he's a big playmaker. So, I mean, he's one of those guys from Florida that tend to have a lot of speed. He's one of those guys. So, I think he'll be good for this class. And I think, having Tavoy Fegan, another Tampa guy that, has been recruiting him since the start of this, he was able to win him over eventually. And, I think that's a big get for Clemson, just to be able to have one of those guys that can go stretch the football field, and you can throw him bubbles and he can go 80 yards. So I think he's a big get. I know, they're not done at that position. I know Braylon Staley's an in-state guy that they're really, after. He was on the OV this weekend. Mike Matthews was there as well, another receiver. Cam Coleman was there also, big 5-star. So they are actively trying to add to that wide receiver position in this class particular.
Jeremy Johnson, On3 Sports. Now, Jeremy, I don't know how much you focus on the transfer portal in addition to your high school recruiting, but we all know that Dabo Swinney doesn't like to use the portal and uses it very, very, very sparingly, mostly a door going outwards, not so much inwards. But both with Clemson and South Carolina, is there any news to share regarding portal acquisitions?
No, not that I know of. I mean, there may be the quarterback position may be one to watch. I mean, I hadn't heard of any guys that they're particularly targeting or that they that are en route or anything of that nature. But, you know, the quarterback could be a place where they decide to add at some point, especially with, you know, a new offensive coordinator coming in. They may want to get a guy in there that could run their system, that, you know, that has run that system before or something similar to it. I mean, just to add a veteran into that group as well. You know, we talk about, you know, college guys coming in to start, but, you know, you also need a program guy that's been around. And, you know, they got 2 young guys in there, Cade Klubnik and Christopher Vezina. And, you know, those guys haven't, you know, necessarily played a lot of college football yet. So, you know, they may need a guy in there to kind of help them run the room and run, you know, meetings and, you know, run off-season stuff as well. So, you know, I think that is probably, if there is potential for them to dip in the portal, that would be where I would look if, you know, I'm kind of looking at that, the tea leaves of that.
Jeremy Johnson joining us. Jeremy, what do you think? Who are the next shoes to drop, so to speak? And what do you think is going to happen? Clemson, South Carolina related over the next few weeks. I know you said this could be the tip of the iceberg for Clemson. What other names, maybe Gamecock Clemson related, are you looking at as maybe decisions sooner than later?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Clemson because I feel like they're going to. And this is a stretch that could be really fun if you're a Clemson fan. I mean, I really like where Clemson is with, you know, Ricardo Jones, a safety out of Warner Robins. He came away really impressed with the visit this weekend. I don't necessarily think anything's imminent, but, you know, he was not shy about, you know, where Clemson ranked for him moving out of there. And the other guy I'm kind of eyeing right now is, you know, obviously another receiver, Bryant Wesco out in Texas. He's a guy that I'm going to keep an eye on. I know he wants to take some official visits, but, you know, I really think Clemson impressed him. And then the third guy is another Texan guy, it's Corian Gibson, the safety. Feel like, you know, at some point, you know, things look really good there as well. So, you know, those 3 names are 3 that I want to keep an eye on, just moving into the next weekend or 2 of official visits.
Jeremy, what's the best and worst part about being you? Like the best and worst elements of your gig? What are they?
I think the best is that I'm a huge fan of football and I just get to be around it all the time. Like I wake up in the morning thinking about football and I go to bed at night thinking about football. And when I'm the middle part of the day, I'm thinking about football. And on the weekends, I get to go watch more football. And occasionally I get to go to football games. So that's probably the best part. That's probably also the worst part is because I don't really necessarily get to be a fan anymore. Like I don't see football, you know, in the fan shoes like I once did. You know, I don't get to root for a team. I don't get to necessarily, you know, because I have relationships with a lot of the people that are playing. So it's like I can't really I don't root for anyone anymore. It's like, oh, John did great today. Congrats to John. And then I go on about my day. But I see so much football that I don't really necessarily step away and enjoy it as much as I used to, which, you know, that's part of the business, that's part of the job, which is what I signed up for. And I couldn't ask for anything, you know, necessarily any better than what I do right now.
Yeah, we feel you. We feel you, Jeremy. It's like to some degree, your fandom lessens a little bit because it's your job now. I totally relate to that. Jeremy Johnson, national recruiting writer for On3 Sports. Outstanding stuff. Jeremy, we so greatly appreciate catching up with you. Thank you for the tidbit on Sammy Brown last month. Boy, do you look prophetic now. And we really appreciate all of your insight moving forward. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate you all from having me for sure.
All right. Take care. Jeremy Johnson, national recruiting writer, On3 Sports, with some really, really interesting stuff. How about that, Clemson fans? It's not just Sammy Brown. It's not just like Diesel. Let's do an impromptu tease writing session, right? It's not just Sammy Brown, but Jeremy Johnson drops the names that could make Clemson fans very happy next.
Love
it. Right? Well, impromptu tease, right? What can we say? How can we write a tease that will interact and get engagement? Gave you a lot of good tidbits there. And unfortunately, and quite honestly, we gave him, like, I know Gamecock fans will say, well, Mark Ryan, that was all Clemson related. It was all Clemson related. Well, we gave him the opportunity. Who are the next shoes to drop for Clemson and South Carolina? And he goes, I'm sticking with Clemson because they're about to be like butter because they're on a roll. And he says, I'm sticking with them. watch for Clemson to get some big names here.
And hey, for the first 30 seconds of his answer on the transfer portal, I thought maybe he was talking about a veteran backup for South Carolina. And then he changes it and says, nope, I've been talking about Clemson this whole time. They've got two young guys in the quarterback's room. They may need somebody who's got a little more experience, who's run a similar system to come in and lead the room. He's talking about Clemson. I thought he was talking about South Carolina for the first part of that. And then you know, it was either an oversight or a genius move on his part to keep you listening for the first 30 seconds of that answer because you weren't sure exactly which school he was talking about.
That's it, Sammy Brown, and it sounds like many more still to come. Jeremy Johnson mentioned the name Ricardo Jones, Bryant Wesco, Corian Gibson, names to watch here coming up for the Clemson Tigers. Coming up next on the show, it's not a problem with them. It's not that they're not compelling. The problem is with you and me, and I'll explain why when Offsides continues right after this. Mark Ryan and Diesel, the most interactive sports talk show anywhere, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Fantastic to have you guys with us. You know, I'm still getting tweets about this, Diesel. As part of the merger, the PGA will control holes 1 through 8 and 12 to 10. The Saudis do 9-11. You know, like, I mean, people have jokes. You know what I mean? As part of the merger, the PGA will control holes 1 through 8 and 12 through 18. The Saudis do 9-11. I mean, it's like, that's where we are. That's where we are, you know? And the Saudis did do 9/11. And that's the problem. That's the problem that all of us have with a lot of this stuff, right? It's really interesting. You know, I just swung by the boss's office and he goes, Mark, you and Diesel, electric live court golf discussion. Calls were great today. I said, yeah, Diesel and I were talking about that. I said to Diesel during the commercial break, like, I'm forgetting I'm hosting the local show today, and it feels like I'm hosting the network show with all the calls that are coming in and the caliber of the phone calls. It's great. Love it. Keep it coming. Glad to see you guys so fired up, man. So fired up. Texter says, can you ask Jeremy Johnson where the Gamecocks stand with Dylan Stewart? I apologize, Spur Daddy. I'm just seeing that one right now, but a lot of interesting tidbits. You know, we felt like we wanted to ask Jeremy Johnson about both teams, and today was the day where it's all about Clemson, you know, where all the buzz and all the news and everything is about Clemson. Doesn't mean Beamer's not done a great job. He has. You know, Clemson is now 1 spot ahead of South Carolina in the 24/7 recruiting rankings. And they are, let me see here, on the on-3 front, South Carolina is 6th and Clemson is 8th. So it's really literally neck and neck between the Gamecocks and Clemson right now. Incidentally, it's neck and neck, not just between those two, but my school as well, the Florida Gators. Florida is 4th in the on-3 sports ratings, ahead of both South Carolina and Clemson. And Florida is 14th in, it's like, how can they be so different, right? Florida doesn't have a lot of commitments. They have 8. But On3 Sports really values the commitment of DJ Lagway, the 5-star quarterback that Florida has coming into the fold. There's also a running back who posted a picture of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and it was posted something cryptic saying, might this, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, let's do this again. And people don't know if they're talking about Cade Klubnik or DJ Lagway. Don't know if they're talking about Clemson or Florida, right? So that'll be interesting to see as well. Great day for Clemson yesterday, man. Like, you can't shake a stick at it. That was outstanding. And then to get the 4-star wide receiver out of Florida today, TJ Moore, outstanding pickup, 6'4", 190 pounds. The big target guy, is he going to be able to separate from defenders? We will soon see. Clemson's had a lot of, possession wide receivers lately. Not a lot in the way of explosive guys. And that has been the problem. That has been the issue, right? All of Clemson's wide receivers have kind of fit the same mold. They need somebody who can help take the top off of the defense. It's going to be great. This is going to be such a freaking fun race to watch. Clemson, South Carolina, who is going to win the ultimate recruiting battle?
First time in a long time, it's actually a race.
Yeah, and credit to Beamer for that, man. I mean, look, Diesel, let's decide that we're going to look at a consensus of On3, 24/7 sports and rivals, right? And what we will do is we will add the totals together. So let's say South Carolina 6th in rivals, 3rd in On3 sports, and 8th in 24/7 sports. That'll be 6 + 3 + 8 is 17. Clemson's got to beat that number on the 3 services in order to win the recruiting battle. We'll look at the consensus overall ranking to determine who has got the better class for 2024. But coming up next on the show, the problem is not with them, okay? Even though people say it is, the problem is with you and me. And I'll explain why next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. So Diesel's got, like, he's all technological and stuff, and he's looking at his wife getting the mail, and he was trying to show me the front of his home. And, like, this technology is so far away and above my head. All I can tell you, Diesel, is my mother-in-law has, like, the Ring and all this security stuff, and nothing trips me out more than what you just did. Diesel just goes to his wife, booga booga, into his phone, and apparently she can hear that. And
plays over the Nest speaker.
Whenever, like, I'm walking up to my mother-in-law's house and I hear her go through the Ring doorbell, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? Nice shirt." I am so tripped out. It's like the walls talk.
Oh, it'll tell you. Ours will tell you who is ringing your doorbell. Like if Brandon comes over, he's been over to the house enough times, and it now recognizes Brandon as doorbell rings as Brandon's at the front door.
How does it know it's him?
Because it recognizes his face. Because he can come over a few times that I can go on the app and I can say it'll have 100 photos of people coming to the door. A lot of them are you because you go in and out of your door every single day. And you'll be like, that's Brandon, that's Brandon, that's Brandon. And then it eventually just learns, like, oh, here's what Brandon looks like.
Brandon is coming over.
Yeah.
Mark is coming over. Batten down the hatches. Do not let him in. 71307 on the text line is where you can get to us on the show today, guys. And look, I think, tomorrow night we've got game 3 of the NBA Finals. And I just keep hearing over and over and over again how the Nuggets are boring. They're boring. No, they're not. Nobody's interested in the Denver Nuggets. There's something about them that's missing. They're not compelling. They don't have drama. They don't have dysfunction. Yeah, they got their super athletic wing, Michael Porter Jr., who can jump out of the gym and make threes. He's a 3-and-D guy. You got your star guard in Jamal Murray, who can catch fire and is unstoppable when they do. And then you got the best player in the NBA in Nikola Jokic, literally the best player in the National Basketball Association. And I shared with you yesterday the scouting report of Nikola Jokic coming out of Serbia is slow, has poor conditioning, is not overly athletic, can't jump. And all of those things are still true. And yet he is the best player in the NBA today. So I will tell you guys this. I'm going to share a little anecdote with you. All right? Because I don't think the problem here is with the Denver Nuggets. I think the problem is with us. All right? So my wife and I watch this show called Love is Blind. And it's on Netflix. Perhaps you've watched it, don't want to admit it. That's okay. I'll take the bullet for you. Okay? My wife and I watch it. And when we watch it, right, we watch the American show. And my wife is always lamenting the lack of morality of the girls on that show. She's like, God, does nobody have any morals anymore? Like, what is this? And she's just like disappointed. And she'll get into this mode where she's like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore. And then she'll say to me, are we watching Love is Blind tonight? So I said, okay, well, they got one of these for Japan. So let's watch the Love is Blind Japan. And Diesel, it is nothing but morality. Like these people, if they play their cards right, they might get laid in 30 years. You know what I'm saying? In 30 years. And it's all like, how are you? It's all conversation. Do you have any questions for me? And it's all just natural, very high morality conversation. There's no talk about sex. There's no talk about what's sexy. There's no talk about appearance. There's no talk about any of that. And Angela falls asleep watching that in 15 minutes. And I said, you need the drama and the dysfunction. You always complain about the American girls and the drama and dysfunction, and that show captures your attention, and this show has all the morality in the world, and you fall asleep in 15 minutes every time.
Well, whatever you do not show her on Discovery Plus, now streaming MILF Manor, which is a show of 8 attractive older ladies and their sons on a game show where they all hook up with each other.
No chance she'll watch that.
Yeah.
No chance.
So like Sandra, and I don't watch the show, I'm just making up a name here, but that sounds like a MILF's name. Sandra has to watch her son hit on Becky and Tina and Sarah. And she's like watching her son hook up with women her own age. It's weird.
Oh,
It's really, really weird.
No.
It's funny is like it that was actually a fake show that appeared on not The Office, 30 Rock. On 30 Rock, they were promoting a show called MILF Island. And then a couple years later, it becomes a reality. It becomes a real show.
If somebody asked you, what does MILF stand for? How would you describe that to them, ladies and gentlemen? How would you describe
a mom I'd like to fall in love with?
Like if your girl's mom asked you, what's a MILF? How would you survive that experience, right? What would you do? So anyway, folks, back to Denver, right? Because Denver, I want you to hear this clip from Chris Mannix, okay? Chris Mannix was on the Rich Eisen show, and he made me literally sick to my stomach when he described Denver's real problem.
The card the Nuggets can play is nobody talks about us. Nobody, spends airtime discussing us, column inches writing about us, because frankly, the Nuggets aren't very interesting. Like Nikola Jokic is arguably the best player in the game right now, but he's not someone that does a lot of interviews outside of the NBA mandated stuff. You're not going to see a lot of profiles on Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray, great player, not especially interesting. Michael Porter Jr., excellent player, not especially interesting, at least not compared to what we have at the bottom of the playoff bracket, where you've got drama in Los Angeles almost weekly. You've got the Suns. Can they succeed in this first year with Kevin Durant? The Warriors, all their dysfunction this year. The Clippers, can they get it together? The Nuggets' problem is they're not respected. They're just not talked about. People just don't find them as interesting as some of the teams on the bottom half of the bracket.
Because you see, I guess, what, Steven Adams doing more commercials than Jokic? I mean,
he doesn't want to do it. Like look, it's a kind of a cliche, but he just wants to play. He wants to collect a check, and he wants to help his team win. That's really all that's on his mind.
That's it.
Any given week. You don't see him doing endorsement deals. You remember when he won the MVP award, both times the Nuggets had to fly over to Serbia to give it to him. He was out. He was gone. He was just hanging with his family back home in Europe. So they're just not a compelling team to talk about, to write about, at least not as compelling as some of the other teams I mentioned.
Okay.
So there you go. They're just not as compelling, right? Well, Love is Blind America has the dysfunction, has the catfights, has the drama. Love is Blind Japan is all polite and bowing and, PG conversation, right? No talk about sex or anything like that. And my wife falls asleep watching that. She complains about the American show, falls asleep watching the Japan one, and then says to me, we're watching Love is Blind America tonight, right? I don't know what it is. But people talk about Denver like they're the teacher's pet, right? Like no one likes the teacher's pet, but the teacher's pet is the teacher's pet as a former teacher because he or she is doing things the right way. They're doing their assignment, they're participating, they're on task. And I understand the whole back and forth, right? Like some parents have the bumper sticker that says, my kid made honor roll. Then other parents have the bumper sticker that says, my kid beat up your honor student, right? I get people don't like the teacher's pet. I understand that in Denver is kind of the teacher's pet. But what is boring, folks, about greatness? What is boring about that?
Sounds like this guy wants to drag the Nuggets down to the muck and the mire. He wants them embroiled in controversy because that's all he cares about. Like, well, that's a you problem, bro.
You want to know why this NBA Finals is fantastic, even though the ratings aren't going to be great? When the playoffs began, the Nuggets were 6th in odds to win. 6th. Behind Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix, Golden State, and Philadelphia. They've been the best team by far. They had 11-1 odds to win the championship when the playoffs began. Guess what Miami's were? 300-1. 300-1. 7 undrafted players for the Miami Heat. Udonis Haslem, Haywood Highsmith, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Omer Yurtseven. 7 undrafted players, and yet they're right here. But what is it about us, folks? What is it about who we are as a society that, like, being great at what you do isn't good enough? You know, like, is it okay with you guys if we just do a kick-ass show? Or do we need drama and dysfunction? Do you need Diesel and I to go cage match UFC? That's not going to end well for me in the studio here on the YouTube camera. You know, like, and I can further illustrate this. This isn't just unique to the Denver Nuggets. Just about all of you would agree with me that Julio Jones was a far better player than Odell Beckham Jr., right? Julio Jones, Atlanta wide receiver, far better than Odell Beckham Jr. and the hair. Listen to this. On Twitter, their social media following. Julio Jones, 500,000. Odell Beckham, over 2 million. Julio Jones is a better player according to everybody. Odell Beckham has 4 times the followers. We can't turn away from drama and dysfunction, the double Ds. We can't turn away. There's other double Ds you can't turn away from. Drama and dysfunction. Julio Jones is a better player, but he's calm. He's understated. He doesn't have crazy hair. Everyone says, give me the drama, give me the dysfunction. I'm following Odell. The problem isn't with the Denver Nuggets, folks. The problem is with you and I. That's the issue. That's the problem.
I need all of you who are watching right now on the YouTube channel to grab the link and send it to a sports-obsessed buddy of yours, so that we can get as many people in here watching the show as possible. But Roger over there asks a very interesting question, and I'm not really sure how to answer this one. He says, so do I lose my man card if I shower with y'all on the screen in my bathroom? He's watching the YouTube feed live and showering at the same time. Does he lose his man card for that?
What is the weirdest place you've ever listened to our show? Have you ever had our show on getting hanky-panky on? I hope not. Have you ever listened to this show on the crapper? God, I like Diesel. This is a thought that I've never had before. I've never stopped to think about what our audience is doing when they have us on.
Unfortunately, I have many times, and it's not a pretty thought. It's not a pretty thought, but I do want to know from Roger, what kind of iPad do you have that you can take it into the shower? Like that's a thing. You know, I think I've come up with an idea and I've put it out there for years. Nobody's ever done it before. But you know, like sometimes it's unfortunate you're in a movie and nature calls and you got to go. So you got to miss a big chunk of the movie, right? Why can't you take your ticket with like a little barcode on it and scan it in front of and have a screen in front of you at the urinal or in the sit down toilet? Why can't you scan a little QR code and it brings up your movie from your theater at the exact time that you're watching it? So you don't, the only thing that you miss is the walk from the theater to the bathroom. You get there, boop, scan your ticket. It brings you right to the movie and it lasts for, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it might be. But that way you don't have to miss a big chunk of your movie while you're doing your business. I think that's a brilliant idea. So I want that. And I want a shower compatible video screen so I can watch football in the shower. Man, I'd be running up a water bill. Maybe that's not a good idea.
All right, folks, coming up next, Diesel always with solutions for first world problems. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, everybody? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 p.m. today. We know there's a ton of choices out there. We truly do appreciate you making us part of your afternoon. We owe you two things: to work as hard as we can on the show and to be honest with you. And we always want to make sure we're getting the checks from you in both areas. 844-FAN phone is the number. That's 844-326-3663. And the text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word FAN, and away you go on the show. Now it is time to do that jam that we call the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. The top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate, Offsiders. The top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it!
5.
At number 5, Dabo Swinney is like butter because he's on a roll in recruiting. Not only did we get the news late in the show, and gosh, Diesel, the engagement on the post yesterday was fantastic. Top 5 player in the 2024 class, 14th best player according to 24/7 Sports, top 5 according to other services. Linebacker out of Jefferson, Georgia, from Jefferson High School, Sammy Brown, the Brian Bosworth lookalike, squats over 450 pounds, insane sideline-to-sideline speed, 6'2", 230 pounds, has a 99.3 grade. According to 24/7 Sports, picked the Clemson Tigers over Georgia. But they're not done. No. I know this high school well. It's my home neighborhood, essentially. They go to Tampa Catholic today and get 6'3", 190-pound wide receiver TJ Moore. 4 stars with a grade of 92. That's music to your ears if you are a Clemson fan. You know, I always wonder to myself, who else recruited them, right? And I judge their worthiness of who else offered them. Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, all offered him. Georgia, all offered TJ Moore. All wanted TJ Moore. You know, how do you fix an anemic wide receiver room? That's a way to do it. TJ Moore has got some wild hair, don't care, and he is a Clemson Tiger. But the good news, don't stop there, Clemson fans, because Jeremy Johnson of On3 Sports joined us. And I said, what's the next shoe to drop for Clemson or South Carolina? Who is going to be the next one to get the big news? He goes, Mark, I'm feeling all the mo for Clemson. He said, Mark, last time I was on, you asked me who was going to finish with a better class, Clemson or South Carolina, and I said South Carolina. I might want to walk that one back a bit because I'm hearing Ricardo Jones was blown away by his Clemson visit. Bryant Wesco probably now has Clemson in the lead, and Clemson has always been the team to beat. For safety, Corian Gibson. Reports of Clemson's demise and the recruiting trail were greatly exaggerated. From number 20 in the On3 in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings, from number 20 to now number 10, one spot ahead of South Carolina per 24/7 Sports. How about that? Things can change overnight in a blink. Next up.
4.
So we've been having this conversation about Denver because Chris Mannix and others say Denver's boring because the ratings for this NBA Finals are not going to be good, right? Miami is a bunch of undrafted players that are playing way over their heads. And, you know, they got one superstar, Jimmy Butler, one good player, Bam Adebayo, and a bunch of overachievers, essentially, right? Denver is this team that has never been good, and people are talking about them like, okay, this is just a random team that the mixer spit out this year. And I'm saying, yeah, Denver might be the teacher's pet, They do things the right way, and people don't like the teacher's pet, but they're great. They have all the elements you need. Athleticism on the wing, a scoring point guard, the best big man in the NBA. And you know what I say, folks? Like any single time, right? Like people are trying to get rid of you or you're in a part-time role, realize that Nikola Jokic is a dinosaur. The NBA has been trying to move away from the slow, plodding big center for years. They want Draymond Green to be the center. They want to have stretch fours. So what do you do if you're Nikola Jokic? You be so damn good that they can't move on from you. It is my same philosophy, folks. Anytime there's a part-timer filling in on this station, you know what I tell them? Be so good we can't take you out. You know what my mindset is whenever I host a show for CBS? Be so good they've got to ask you back. That's what Nikola Jokic has achieved. But do you guys believe me when I say that the problem with the Denver Nuggets is not them, it's us? The fact that we need drama and dysfunction to be entertained is an us issue. Okay? It has nothing to do with them. What is boring about greatness? Next up.
3.
At number 3 today, Eric Spoelstra became insulting with one of the top basketball reporters in America. You don't often hear this, right? You don't often hear this exchange. And the reason is because all these coaches know who the best reporters are. They go after the reporters that nobody knows. Here is the exception, Eric Spoelstra versus ESPN's Ramona Shelburne.
This is probably oversimplifying things, but sometimes when teams play against Jokic, you turn him into a scorer, you turn him into a passer, and he controls the game. He only had 4 assists tonight.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's the untrained eye that says something like that. This guy's an incredible player. You know, twice in 2 seasons, he's been the best player on this planet. You can't just say, oh, make him a scorer. That's not how they play. They have so many different actions that just get you compromised. We have to focus on what we do. We try to do things the hard way, and he requires you to do many things the hard way. And he has our full respect.
The untrained eye. That is a take for the untrained eye. He dropped that.
She only does this for a living.
On one of the most well-known NBA reporters that exists, yet that's a take for the untrained eye. Well, she's essentially asking, do you want to make Nikola Jokic a scorer? Because he really kills you when you allow him to do everything. And maybe she hit Eric Spoelstra at an uncomfortable talking point, and he went off on the reporter instead. Diesel, I've been the victim of angering an NBA head coach. I was covering an Orlando Magic game. Stan Van Gundy, who now does the play-by-play, Stan Van Gundy was also on the call of the Furman win over Virginia in March Madness. And J.J. Redick was a rookie. And Orlando couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from deep. I watched them lose a game where they were like 4 for 24 from 3. And I think I asked him something to the effect of, Stan, you have the NBA's all-time leading three-point shooter on the bench. Was there a consideration to maybe giving him some run? And I kid you not, Diesel, he goes, look, guys, I'm the coach of this team, okay? I'm sorry that you're not the coach of this team, but I'm the coach of this team. And I'm sorry that you think you could do better, okay? But there's a reason, there's a method to my madness, okay? Thank you. And he got up. he got up and left. And then I had media members say to me, "Thanks a lot, Mark." Like I still had questions to ask. He got up and left after that. And it was like, dude, you've got the best three-point shooter. You can't shoot threes, and you're not playing the best three-point shooter ever. Why?
And what are they going to ask? The same dumbass questions they ask after every single game?
That's it. Well, Eric Spoelstra didn't like the question, but I think Ramona Shelburne was onto something. You make Nikola Jokic a scorer, you take away his ability to dominate the game as a facilitator, and you win. Don't be upset, Eric, that she's spoiling your plan. Next up,
2.
At number 2, Super Regional is set. Diesel just 9 of the 16 seeded teams. advanced to the Super Regional, right? A shade above 50%. There's 4 teams in every regional, but they were the seeded teams. Making it to the Super Regional among the seeded teams, Virginia, Indiana State was a little guy, rewarded the committee by winning their regional. South Carolina, Florida, Wake Forest, Alabama, Kentucky, LSU, and number 8 Stanford. Sadly, I believe I picked 2 of 3 teams in the state to win their regional. And yesterday, Coastal Carolina was not one of them. Very, very sadly, indeed. Last night, Duke in the final game of the regional, all over the Chanticleers, 12-3. Does Duke have advantages that Coastal does? Financial advantages? You bet. What is the most compelling super regional matchup to you?
Man, my conference, the Sun Belt Conference, got 4 teams in, only 1 advanced. It's a rough weekend for the Sun Belt.
Let me see here, D. So
Southern Miss advanced.
Oh, that's right.
Troy failed to advance. Coastal failed to advance, and Louisiana failed to advance.
And they're probably a betting underdog against Tennessee as well. But Southern Miss was one of those teams by the rankings that got screwed out of hosting, right?
Right.
They were one of those teams that got screwed. So we will see. I think if you answer anything other than South Carolina and Florida being the most compelling, you're not being honest with yourselves. And finally, the LIV Golf Tour today merged with the PGA Tour. I should say that a different way. The PGA Tour merged with LIV Golf. The PGA Tour today, ladies and gentlemen, decided that it was time that they break bad. And for the life of me, I don't understand why, like so many of you are acting like there's some I told you so moment coming to me. Nothing has changed for me. You know, the PGA Tour broke bad. The PGA Tour realized that LIV Golf was a threat, so they caved. They sold their souls to the devil. Shame on them, right? I'm not surprised. Are you surprised that that an organization that allowed one of their major golf courses, the Masters, did not allow an African-American member since 1990? Are you surprised that that organization did a deal with a devil? Of course I'm not. Who I feel bad for are all the good soldiers, the Rory McIlroys of the world, that towed the company line, that preached morality, and then behind their backs, the PGA Tour does this said deal with the devil. So how do I feel about it? Well, I watched very little golf before. I'm going to watch golf less now. There's some of you who may never watch golf again as a result of this, and I tip my cap to you if you're one of them. What I will say is I still have to cover the sport of golf, but I'll only do what is mandatory of me. I think the sport is in a ton of trouble. 1,300 golf courses have closed over the last 10 years. 1,300 have closed over the last 10 years. Okay? And I think it's despicable that the PGA Tour decided to join forces with LIV Golf. Despicable, man. Disgusting. You know, you're totally in your rights if you never watch golf again. My question to you is, from a moral sense, where do you draw the line? You know, I'm wearing Nike slides right now. I understand that Nike doesn't have the best record, you know, in terms of human rights, sweatshops, etc. I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware that there are links to companies that we do business with, that I do business with, you purchase products from. You know, they don't all have their scruples, their morality, right? But to me, to do business with the entity that was responsible for the greatest mass murder in American history, and you struggle to use the word greatest there, the worst mass murder in American history. All I can tell you is if that's not where you draw the line, you and I are just never going to see eye to eye. I have major questions for you. That is where I draw the line. This family murdered Americans. I feel like I'm in some bad dream that I can't get through to some of you guys on this. And don't hit me with, well, this company did it, or this company did it, or what about them? That is an elementary discussion that you used to have when your sister hit you. But Mom, my sister hit me too. If you don't have a better reasoning than what about them? What about this? What about this product? You're entertaining just an elementary grade school level discussion. This is disgusting. This is gross. All right. I was listening to Colin Cowherd today, and Colin said, look, anybody who has who is saying they'd never do this, they'd never merge with the PGA Tour, they'd never take LIV Golf money, has never been offered millions of dollars by a company that was involved in some under-the-table dealings. Well, Colin, you missed one guy who has. Bob Costas is a millionaire, and here's what he has to say about LIV Golf.
This is blood money. Just no two ways around it. It's blood money. This is not like the AFL was once a challenge to the NFL or the ABA or the World Hockey Association to the established leagues, and maybe fans of a team would say, gee, we wish our guy didn't go over there. That isn't the case. This is Saudi blood money. We know all we need to know about the royal family and what they have done. It's not just Khashoggi. It's not just the ongoing oppression of women and gays. They're directly or indirectly tied, according to U.S. and British intelligence, to the 9/11 event.
What would it take for you to boycott the PGA Tour after this? What more would it take? You know, all you guys saying it's no big deal. I guarantee you didn't lose a family member in 9/11. You know, like I'm despondent at the fact that the PGA Tour and certain golfers could decide to take money from the same people who financially made 9/11 possible.
What would it have taken for you LIV supporters to say, you know what? No, I don't like what the country who's funding this is about. I don't like where the funding is coming from. I don't want this. I don't like this. Get it off my TV. Do they got to come over and, smack Lady Liberty in the face? Do they need to come over and take the Statue of Liberty down? Would that be enough for you? Or would you say, well, I still love golf, so I kind of want to watch it?
Folks, it's disgusting. And I am beside myself with grief about this. Really. I mean, it's disgusting. Shame on the PGA Tour for Breaking Bad, right? Colin Cowherd, for his own edification, did mention, he said, I was offered 6 figures to do some reads for LIV Golf. I was offered 6 figures to go to some events, and I turned it down. And he said, if it was millions of dollars, the answer may have been different. But all those people who are waving the finger, never had to choose between morality and millions of dollars. Well, Bob Costas is a millionaire. Bob Costas is not getting in bed with the Saudis. It's really dirty money. Are we being sanctimonious, Diesel and I, holier than thou? Or are we being proud Americans who can't understand with one iota of the fabric of our beings why it would ever be okay to do business with the family that funded 9/11, that paid to make sure that thousands of Americans lost their lives? And if you're somebody who believes this is okay because you're acting in a brainless manner and your leader, Donald Trump, is okay with it, and you're just going to blindly follow him, shame on you. Shame on you. This is awful. You can't think for yourself. You would never sign on to this if you had lost a family member in 9/11. And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at The Fan Upstate on all 3. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is M-A-R-C Ryan, at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Let's get to Rich in Chicago, who's been hanging patiently. Hey, Rich, got a couple minutes for you, bud. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark, I'll be fast. I know you got the 2-minute warning. I understand that. But I wanted to just follow up. I forwarded you the emails. Did you get all that?
I did. Thank you, bud.
Yeah, I think this stuff is pending. They know this is time sensitive. But one of the questions I was asked, and you can help me, do you work Saturdays for interviews?
Do I work Saturdays for who?
For interviews. I mean, could you take them on a Saturday?
On the Saturdays that we do CBS shows, which I just found out today again, I'll be on the 17th. We could do them on the 17th. So I would do Spurrier on CBS. If it was Mark Kingston, I would try to record that and air it locally. Okay. I don't think the national audience has an interest in Mark Kingston.
No, they don't. That's why I asked you.
Yeah.
And plus, the reason I suggested Thursday is the first game is Friday, right? He doesn't want to have any kind of conflict.
Right.
Thursday would be the day before the game 1.
Right.
So
okay.
That could work.
There you go.
Right, the other thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The other quick things that I think would interest you as well is my buddy at Gainesville said, ask your pal, because he knows you're a Gator. He goes, ask your pal if he'd be interested in getting Napier on since he played at Furman.
I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to do that. We got a great relationship with Furman. The folks over at Furman know how badly I want to have Billy Napier on. We're trying. If you have another avenue to enable that to happen, I'd love for it to. The problem is, let me tell you the issue, okay? My school, Florida, does not have a great sports information director. It's not that I pissed him off. It's just that the sports information director at Florida views it as his job to shoot you down. And they offer almost anybody. So the way to get Billy Napier is to go over the head of the sports information director. You got to have somebody who knows Billy directly. And I don't have somebody that know Billy. I don't have someone that knows Billy directly except the folks at Furman. And I do know they've tried for me.
All right. Well, look, I actually have pals in the office. And the reason I say that is, Spurrier is a Florida ambassador.
Right.
All right. And he works in the football office with the guys that I know. So I think that could be fine to do that. Last thing for you, this will be some good ammo for your show. I like data, right? Here's the deal. The class of 24, next year's recruiting class, the top 100 high school players, in terms of where they reside currently, what high schools and what state. How about this? Florida has 23 of the top 100 and Georgia has 13. That's 36%, right? 36 out of 100. I wanted to do the math for the Georgia fans that might be listening. That's 36%.
36% in Georgia and Florida. That's some really interesting studies. And Rich, thank you so much. Number 1, for your support.
Sure.
Number 2, for being a friend, for being so kind with your words on the show. And then for your efforts to help us with guests, man. I don't know what you charge. I can't afford you, buddy. But I appreciate you greatly. All right.
No, look, I love helping fellow Gators. That's why I'm here. So, I have the misfortune of being a lot older than you, so I know a lot of people.
Love you, buddy. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon, okay? Next, if you have any updates, Rich, and email me, I will write back to you immediately if you have any updates on this stuff, okay? Thank you so much. Appreciate it greatly, bud. All right. Coming up next, if I ask you a question, what players would be as good in this era as they were in their own? Who fits that bill? That's next. And this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.
Stream, it's been a blast again today. Thank you to Mad Craft, to Spur Daddy, to Roger Carper, to the laundry list of other people who have gotten in and commented, Scott King, who have jumped in throughout the day. Thank you all so much for continuing to make our YouTube stream the place to be. Share it every day that you can. Share it to sports-obsessed people. Get them watching the show. That'll help us hook them as subscribers. And then, the party just gets bigger and bigger. So appreciate you being here. Mark, you got anything to say?
Guys, we thank you so much, man. We really, really do. It's great to see you guys. We love having people call in, text in, tweet in. We've got so many different platforms going now, and we do so because of you. We're so greatly appreciative of you. Tomorrow, guys, I'll be at 10903 Anderson Road, the Ingalls in Piedmont. Hope to see you out there. And then Thursday, we are at the BMW Charity Pro-Am Golf Tournament. So we'll be rocking it out. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great one.